And what about the United States? This got me to thinking. In between our elections, a lot happens to this country that is not subject to elections and no longer subject to representative government. Did you support the hiring of 87,000 new IRS agents? Was that on some ballot somewhere? Did you support the complete disruption of energy independence and the complete attack on the combustion engine and automobiles and other vehicles that use gasoline? Did you support somehow, somewhere, or vote for open borders where fentanyl and illegal immigrants and MS-13 and drug cartels can operate freely on our border, creating anarchy, death, rape, all kinds of horrors taking place there? Did you vote for or support or even hear about a massive debt like the planet has never seen on top of regular spending that would affect inflation the way it does? Did somebody run for office saying that they would destroy women's sports, or you couldn't define what a woman is? And I could go on and on and on. What happens between the elections is as important as what happens on Election Day. We've ceased to be a representative government. So much of what's going on now in this country, the authorities, as I'll call them, they make the decisions. The bureaucracy makes the decisions. Our prosecutors and the FBI make the decisions about who we're going to select to run the Republican Party as a perfect example. We've lost control of this country. When you watch the media, when you listen to the media, do you recognize your country? The way they yell at you? How they call you names? The way they discuss American history? We've lost control of our classrooms, where the most radical ideologues now have teaching degrees, tenure, protected by unions and the administrations. That is, the educational bureaucracy is now in control of your children's minds. Where did that happen? Did somebody support that? And so we've lost our notion of representative republicanism and constitutionalism. And what happens also under those circumstances is the growing police state. Now, what do I mean by that? Free speech is limited. You're now told what language you can and cannot use, or you're going to be destroyed, have your career ruined, or attacked viciously. When did that happen? Or now freedom of assembly. You look at January 6th, there were hundreds of thousands of people on the mall in Washington, D.C. They're now all called insurrectionists. You have tens of millions of Americans who are called semi-fascists, whatever that means, by the President of the United States and his party. Folks, it's totally out of control. And economically, look at California. What used to be the most prosperous, innovative, entrepreneur-friendly state in the country 20 years ago is now moving closer and closer to an economy akin to North Korea. They can't put the lights on at night. They can't drive their electric cars when they want to drive their electric cars. They don't have enough water. In other words, they don't have the basics. And my friend Peter Pry, who unfortunately died a few weeks ago, he warned us. He warned us what happens if the electrical grid goes down. He warned us about enemies attacking the electrical grid. But what about enemies within attacking the electrical grid? That is, putting so much power on that grid that simply cannot handle it. You'll brownouts and blackouts, automobiles that can't move. And where do we go from there? The government will start saying you can only have certain types of automobiles. It did already. Or how many automobiles you can have, or how far you can drive, or how long you can charge them up. And eventually, you can't have automobiles. You have to use public transportation. You think I'm wrong? Trust me on this. I'm not wrong. And they'll demand no more single houses in zoned areas out in the suburbs or the extra burbs. They're already doing that at HUD. So you got to live closer and closer, use public transportation where you can be more easily managed. And the whole idea of federalism is destroyed. Look, you have all these states banding together like a confederacy, 13 or 17 of these blue states, banding together to ban the combustion engine and automobiles. They don't have a plan for what happens after. So you're going to suffer. You're going to be poor. You're going to be impoverished. And look at the food situation, the price of food, the emptying of shelves. You have ideologues making these decisions. They don't know how to run an economy. Nobody knows how to run an economy, let alone ideologues. So you have a relative handful of people deciding how we are going to live based on their ideologies, based on their belief systems. Their belief systems becomes reality for you. You have to live under these conditions. This is completely opposite of what this country was intended to be. We were supposed to have a government of limited power. Now we have a ubiquitous government. We were supposed to have a government that was created with checks and balances and left most of the decisions to the individuals. But that's not the case anymore. Everywhere you turn, there's regulations. And I want to get into this as it applies to the Department of Justice and law and order and the police state that I was talking about. This constant war on Donald Trump is a red flag to all of us. To all of us. Donald Trump is a billionaire. Donald Trump was president of the United States. He may run again. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So all of a sudden now we're in a paper fight. Before it was January 6th. Before that it was a call to Ukraine. Before that it was the emoluments clause. Before that it was his taxes. Before that, it's always a before that and an after that. Because he's the most victimized individual in the country. Why? Because they're setting an example for you, Mr. and Mrs. Average American. They want you to understand that it is a fool's errand to resist. You accept their language, you accept what they're doing to the country, you accept their electoral results, you accept their court decisions, even though they accept none of that, should they lose.